Well, good morning and welcome to a special bench clear edition on Saturday morning. Getting up early. It is a beautiful day here in Baltimore. I'm joined by John Newman. How you doing this morning, John?
Good. It's not as beautiful, I'm sure, here in Syracuse as it is in Baltimore, but no white stuff, so no complaints from me.
Good morning, Ziggy. How are you today? I just wanted to first of all say glad we get the chance to hit some topics that I know you and I have been talking off air about a little bit, and want to get everybody in. I know that we talk off air about a lot of topics, but stuff that we want the group participation definitely in the chat today. We kind of set this up. Um, One of the things that caught our attention, and I want to give the people in the chat room a minute to join us here. Um, Good morning, everybody.
Jetty, Mad
Yeah.
City, Paige and Bean, Foul Fight Ball, everyone else that maybe hadn't commented and is just watching. Good Saturday morning.
Yep. And we're
Thank you for giving us some of your time. You don't have to do that, yet you do, and we appreciate that.
absolutely. And I am going to try to keep those comments coming as fast as possible as we get started. So, John, you want to start with Superman, um, or do you want to start with the NFL this morning?
Let's get the let's get the hot button topic going right off the bat because I think this is going to be the most time consuming one. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be. I think a lot of people are going to have an opinion one way or the other on the first topic.
All right. So, some of you may have seen, and some of you may not have seen. Brian Gray. John, will you explain who he is?
He's the CEO of Leaf Trading Cards. He's been that for a while now, and they purchased the Pro Set brand what about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and you see, he made a card of himself in a let's be honest, it looks like a Superman costume.
That is deserving. Play that one more time because when you talk about Brian Gray, he needs his own theme music. So please play that one more time. That is
I will
fitting.
say this: anytime I hear that theme, Brian Gray is not the first person to come to mind, and no disrespect there. A little background. So I got an email. I'm sure a lot of people got an email. They also posted it on their social media that they were going to produce this card here. You see Brian Gray depicted in a Superman outfit. He is signing each of these. These will be print to order. So based on how many are sold, they will print that amount. Uh, it's $24.99 if you'd like a Brian Gray autograph card. Uh,
But I want to give a couple more details
I
on
don't
who.
mean to laugh out loud, but that comment just hit me.
I know.
That
I was just going right by that. I'm going to put some comments on the screen today. We may not say out loud, but feel free to give your honest opinions. We do appreciate that. Um, Brian Gray does not lack for ego, and I would say his head in this picture is a little too small. Um, I envisioned it being more of a booklet. I thought we would have like 2 or 3 pages just of his ego, and then a tiny little page of his lower half. What do you think a Brian Gray card should look like?
I've never gave it that much thought, to be honest with you, Danny. See, you're catching me off guard. I'll say this. Listen, let me get the disclaimer out of the way, right? This is his company. He's the CEO. He can make cards of himself all day. He can make 100 card set of himself if he wants. That's his prerogative, just like Bobby Brown used to say, right? But right, we have opinions, right? Just as like it's his prerogative to produce whatever cards he wants to. We can say what we want and what we think about it. Now, this is not the first CEO to produce a card of himself. Um, but I will say, I believe, and someone may correct me if I'm wrong in the chat or elsewhere. It's the first time I've ever heard of a CEO producing a card of themselves and selling it.
Well,
Um,
not only that, can I just say something? It's not even that much total money he's making off of it, and he's keeping it. I mean,
we're
this is
assuming
just
he's we're
shout.
assuming we're
Well,
assuming he's
he kept DeMar Hamlin's money.
we don't. Well, I'm sure percentage. That's the other thing. We can. It's not a. To me, it's when we talk about aesthetics, right? How stuff looks. It's not great aesthetics for Leaf the last week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Last week they prayers answered, DeMar Hamlin release, autograph cards and unautographed cards. The unautographed cards were $7.99 a piece. The autograph cards were $99.99 a piece. He did say a portion. A portion. If you read this, I believe it says a portion. Yeah, Leaf is proud to announce it will be making a donation to the DeMar Hamlin Foundation in conjunction with this exciting collaboration. A donation, not 100% of the proceeds, not 75% of the proceeds. We don't even know how much. I understand there's production cost. It costs Leaf to make these cards.
And it's definitely no Cyberger. I'll agree with. Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, no, not even close. I mean, with all due respect, Brian Gray and Cyberger should not be mentioned.
And really, if there's going to be a
In the
Superman of the
same
hobby, it would be Cyberger, and then about 4,000 people before you get to Brian Gray.
Yeah, and I had Brian Gray's been on Sports Card Nation. Not I don't think he was happy with my line of questioning. People can it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You can go back and listen to it if you want. I haven't had much of a relationship since that appearance. It is what it is. I don't hate anybody, so I don't hate Brian Gray. He's not my cup of tea. He's some other people's cup of tea. Again, he can do whatever he wants. I don't know what kind of call they're going to get for $24.99. How many of these? Maybe you should buy one secretly. Don't advertise it. Buy one, because if only 10 people buy this thing, it's going to be a super short print, and you're going to own one of these things. And when I opened up the email, I'll just talk on my initial reaction. Right when I opened up the email, it struck me funny. And then I wanted to read everything. I'm like, well, maybe this is for a cause. Maybe it's for Make-A-Wish. Maybe it's for something, right? I'm sure he gets asked for his autograph. He is a CEO. And I thought, well, maybe he's doing it to raise money for a charity or something of that ilk. And then I read it, and there was no charitable or, positive contribution for it. And again, I don't know what he does. I'm sure he gives the charities behind the scenes and doesn't advertise it, or at least I hope so. But there's nothing attached to this that said that was the goal of it. So,
Sure.
I think you summed it up well when you said, when he worded it as the hobby has a new superhero. Like, I didn't know the hobby had any superheroes. I just think, the hobby has great people, right? They're, doing great things, hopefully. And you summed it up well, man. I think they probably should have titled this card, The Hobby Has a New Super Ego, because that's really how it come across to me.
Yeah, and I want to be fair. One of the comments said it's great self-promotion for Brian Gray. If you don't like it, don't buy it. First of all, 100%, I'm not going to argue that at all. Here's what my issue is. It goes back with the DeMar Hamlin, and self-promotion is one thing. Taking advantage of somebody who almost died and taking any profit off of that. There's no reason to make any profit off that small DeMar Hamlin run to, and that should be 100% for DeMar and his charities. I've also heard Brian Gray speak at the industry summit. Brian Gray, I did not agree with a lot of what Brian Gray said. He was on a panel involving women in the hobby, and I'm sure you can find lots of information on the internet about his appearance there, or DM me directly. But Brian's problems are not just self promotion of one card, and I certainly hope he tunes in or hears this, because sometimes self promotion can hurt people, and if you do it on the backs of others, that's different. And doing it on the back of women in the hobby or on DeMar Hamlin, that's what I have a problem with. Putting out the Superman card is just ridiculous because he believes that he is some sort of savior. And then to charge for it is just a huge ego. That's my take on it.
Yeah, well, he's got a big ego. I mean, he had a big ego before the card came out. Danny, put the card back up here. I want to talk about something else that's kind of come up. Right, when you look at this card, right, Superman smacks you right in the face, right, as far as the logo and the blue coloring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say DC Comics entity, they own the rights. Someone else, private messaged me yesterday when I posted about this and said, "God, it looks like copyright infringement too. Forget the ego, card about this. It looks like copyright infringement." Now, someone else said he tweaked it a little bit, so it's not exactly like the Superman logo. But come on, that's what. Yeah, he's definitely not a man. But this is, listen. You don't have to look at this card too long to know that he's trying to come. And take a page out of the Superman book.
And right? Guess what? If he makes
this is not Batman, I don't look at this and say, "Oh, it's sort of bad." I don't look at this and say, "Oh, that's a new." It's not a big H on his chest for hobby, right? It's an S.
But guess Superman. What? If he put it as an insert, it would have been maybe funny. You give it as a free insert in the packs of Pro Set or something. Okay, there's a little bit of fun there. But to really sell them, it's not a matter. It's just that's where the ego, I think, crosses the line for the collector. It's not centered. That's because he's not centered. He's a low center of gravity. He's definitely not a vertical.
Well, I think I think it's not centered because it's a poor job by Danny copy and pasting, and mine too. I have the version right.
I and to be fair, listen. The whole thing, this card is the least of the problems I have with him. But this just goes to show you, to speak to the ego. If you think about other people in the hobby, you would have never seen Cy Berger do this. You would have never seen, Warren Bowman, or, quite frankly, well, you might see Michael Rubin do it. I take that back. Okay.
Well, he hasn't yet. Cy Berger has cards, right? But they were produced by someone else, not right. Under his orders. He didn't say, "Hey, get 10,000 cards printed of me statin into the product." So they were that was signed off by someone else. There's sets that Rich Klein and Dr. Beckett appear in that were done by Topps at their own bequest. That Dr. Jim didn't go to Topps and say, "Make a card of me." They made one. It's like a nickname, right? The old adage with a nickname, you can't give yourself a nickname. Your nickname has to be bestowed on you by someone else. I feel almost the same way with this, right? If someone else produces a card of you as an homage to you for your contributions or what you mean to an industry or company or whatever the niche is, that's one thing. But to sort of self-anoint yourself, that's the other thing. He's calling himself a superhero of the hobby. I'm sure he does good things. I don't want to make him out like he's the Antichrist here, but self-anointing.
Well, here's my next question, and I want people's comments. If we were to do superheroes of the hobby, who do people in the comments think would be? I got to say right now, there's a lot of people designing a lot of cool modern cards, and a lot of the, whether it's the Topps Project 20, or 70 or any other. There's a ton of, I think, gorgeous work going on, and a lot of those people, I think, deserve some credit. So if people in the comments have cards that they do like, and you think people should be part of that should get recognition, I definitely want to hear that in the comments.
That
Yeah.
we got a lot of who cares, don't buy it, right? And I agree, right? You don't like it, don't buy it. But it's a topic for discussion, right? I think, and just the way it was promoted was something I wanted to talk about. We're not, we got other topics today. Don't worry, folks. We're not going to do an hour of Brian Gray, although Brian Gray would probably like that. We're not going to feed the ego that's already exists, but it's not my thing. Maybe some people will want it. I'm sure he gets asked for an autograph, and this is a way, hey, you know, make a card and get those autographs out there to folks that do want it. So to each their own, right? But not my thing. Lauren Taylor's artwork, yeah. And you mentioned about hobby heroes, right? I'd like to hope everyone is a hobby hero in some form or fashion, helping someone. I use the two A
Well,
words a
here's a
lot:
great one.
advocate and ambassador, right? Helping someone, sending someone a rack, helping someone finally finish a set.
Well,
Just
can I give a
sending.
shout? I'll give a shout out to David Adams. When my wife was going through chemo and we were breaking cards during her chemo, David Adams sent us a credit for her to get some wax. Well, good on them.
Yeah, and, I don't want to make this a David Adams commercial. They do a yearly thing now where they give a $20,000 award to someone who's hurting. It was given this past year to a card shop employee who was tragically killed in his own house by a stray gang fight bullet. So he's in his room, and a bullet comes through the window and kills him. He was my age, so 49 years old at the time, and David Adams gave $20,000 to that gentleman's family. So kudos, like what they did for your wife, and then this year, and that's going to be a yearly thing, that 20K award.
And I do love this comment. Make a card of the Bills athletic trainer. I'll say the whole staff that helped tomorrow. Yeah, those are certainly, and gotta agree with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you name anyone as a hero of the hobby, then you have to make Dr. Beckett Professor X. Um, Marshall Fogel has the collection. I don't know if that makes him a hero, but it certainly makes me jealous of him, and I'd like to be his adopted son. I'll just be the steward of the collection. I will clean his cards every day with a microfiber cloth. Um,
I'll
so
be the pool boy for whatever
right.
that's worth.
Remember the old Charlie Steiner commercial on ESPN?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was outside.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That,
and then listen, we'll try to bring this particular topic to a close, right? Hobby heroes, right? Just do good for other people. Be an advocate, an ambassador. Try to be informative. Try to help people out. And that sort of thing. And we can all do that, right? We can all do that, whether we have an autograph card or we don't have an autograph card. We can all wear that hat, and promote the hobby, right? We're all in this hobby, I hope, because we love it and we're passionate about it. And promote it and be an advocate and ambassador, and that's one of the best things you can do, and it's free. That for the most part is free.
yes. And I love the answers on the artists to some of these cards. We have some friends that collect some press steel stuff, and some of the artwork going back to the Diamond Kings. That's and some of the work there. I used to work in sports art, so I really like. Brian had an artistic take on it, but I do like clever designs on some of the cards. So I,
Again, be interesting with the copyright stuff. It looks like a Superman outfit to me. That's going to be his business, but I think maybe kind of coming up with your own sort of superhero costume without an S on it, right? Maybe put a big B on it or an H for hobby, but it is what it is, right? It is what it is.
Okay. Anyone who doesn't charge ridiculous prices for cardboard is a real superhero.
There you
That
go.
that I think we can all agree on. That's a great one. All right. Well, if you have more comments, we'll come back to those. But we are already on the 21st of January. And I really wanted to hit a topic probably a month or two ago. And that's kind of, people don't usually talk about the seasonality of card shows around the country. And I know it depends on where you live. And I'm in the mid Atlantic and you're all the way up in the Syracuse area. On the weather and how many shows there are. For me in my area, and once again, I'm curious for other parts of the country, we really don't have any shows November through January. It's kind of that 3-month dead time, which is 25% of the year. So those are starting back up again in the next month or two. Some of the local shows are starting up. That's got me excited, but it's also kind of got me thinking about what the card show outlook is going to be for this year with prices all over the place, corporate money a little bit tight, but at the same time, there's a lot of shows that are committed to.
My next show as a dealer is not till March here in Syracuse. And so here in Syracuse in the winter, there's not a whole lot of shows. The last show we have in Syracuse is the Mega Show, which is 250 tables. It's a great show. It's early December. So this year it was December 4th. They have usually they'll have an autograph guest or two. The promoter, Lynn Lake, who does a great job, had a lot of the Star Wars characters. They had the Ghostbusters car there. They had the TARDIS from the Who. That's my last scheduled show of the year. And then I don't really do a card show as a dealer to March. There are shows in New York, obviously, between now and March. I think there's one in Albany. Either it's this week or next week. They're out in Rochester, Batavia, Buffalo might have some shows. So they're I think we're at the point with shows, right? There's going to be shows going on all the time. And then you got your bigger shows, your regional shows. And then as we leave, and now we have a lot of bigger shows besides the national, right? You got the Mint Collective, which puts on a show now. You got the Industry Summit, which will have a card show element. I'm not sure if they're going to continue to do that. We got, you got your East Coast National, you got Culture Collision, Dallas Card Show has become a beast in its own right.
Is it
I'm leaving someone out on purpose, huh?
Is it oversaturation? I mean,
that's
a lot of these,
for the hot.
But
I know this is going to be
shows
the
get
cop
planned
out
a year in advance or a year and a half in advance.
A lot of shows have to be planned, especially on the bigger variety, Danny, have to be planned 2 years out when you're dealing with parking and hotel. Like the National will tell you, they what we're in 2023 to 2025 is probably in early planning stages.
So a lot of the shows this year were planned during the height of the market.
Yeah, the bigger ones. A smaller show can be planned a year out. So when I talk about those Syracuse shows, those are planned a year ahead because you got to secure the venue. Those Syracuse shows are held on the New York State Fairgrounds property, where the New York State Fair that 1 million people come to every year. That's why there's not a show here in the summer there, because that's when the fair is. And so you got to work around other schedules, right? If you're at a venue where other events happen, if you're at a venue, where there's nothing else going on, then it's easier to schedule.
I know Dallas was doing shows very frequently, and I know they were having more of a corporate presence. A lot of the work I do, with these companies, I mean, money's very tight for a lot of companies in the hobby right now. I guess just kind of expectations for me for 2023 shows is that there might be scaled down corporate presence and the booths may not be as elaborate. I think on the reverse, I think grading companies will be more prevalent than they've been in the past. I think you're going to see a lot more on-site, either actual grading or taking submissions. Or I saw PSA actually is going to be returning submissions at maybe it's the National or another show or the Mint Collective. At the Mint Collective, if you send an order in advance, you can pick up your delivery at the Mint Collective. So I think you're going to see more stuff with the grading companies. It kind of is from a trend, and this gets back to one of the questions that somebody posted on eBay prices up and down. I guess with the market right now, and the prices all over the place, is this really going to change what it feels like to go to a show?
For me, probably not really. You know what I mean? I kind of go in with sort of an itinerary of what I'm doing, cards I'm looking to acquire, like a target list. So I'm sort of OCD in the sense that I kind of have like everything sort of planned out. That doesn't mean you can't go off script, you can't go off schedule, you can, but I at least want to have that baseline. So the shows, to me, I kind of have a mindset already. So but what we might see at shows might change, right? You mentioned about certain people might pare down, right? Maybe you'll see two companies that are friendly with each other say, hey, you have 3 tables, we have 3 tables. Why don't we come together, set up together, and do 4 tables? You get 2, I do 2. It brings those cost production down. Maybe they bring less people from the staff to cut down on travel and hotel expenses
But does that create a
and food
smaller show?
stipend. Well, that's up to the promoter in the call, right? You asked the question, Danny, do we have too many shows? Well, who answers that question? Not me individually or you individually, right? The hobby as a whole, right? If attendance goes down, that promoter, most shows charge admission. If attendance goes down, they're going to bring less tickets at the door, less take at the door, and then they have to determine, what do I need to lower my admission price? Do I need to make this show smaller? And if you have low attendance, who's going to be the first one to complain? Right?
Now,
Dealers, like, where are all the people at? This was my worst show ever. I only made this much. What are you doing, promoter? So there's a lot of different, when it comes to a show, there's a lot of different gears. And then you add in autograph guests, that changes the equation too, because to a promoter, the autograph guest gets paid regardless how many people walk through the door. They're paid before they ever get there.
yep. Well,
So,
and I'm just wondering, and I put this in the chat, even local shows, like we've got some small shows. Is how many shows a year do people go to, or have you gone to? I know a lot of people that go to maybe 1 or 2 local, 20, 30 table shows. And that's all they do for the year, which is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I know people who hit more of the regional, larger shows only. So I'm just curious, what people have done in the past and kind of what they're planning for this year. I think my show schedule might be cut back a little bit this year, and I wonder if that's unique or if most people are planning that type of cutback.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors, right? If you travel, gas, although gas has come down, thankfully. But when gas was, almost $5 a gallon or higher in some areas of the country, right? If you're driving somewhere, that's going to be a cost factor, right? Airline costs are not cheap, and so all that stuff. You have to sort of come up with a game plan. Like, hey, what shows am I going to go to this year? For me, it's for you. You do a lot more shows than me, Danny. So, for me, I try to get to Dallas once a year and definitely the National every year. And so I'm not even sure I'll be able to do Dallas every year, quite frankly. The National, it's the Super Bowl of the shows, as I like to call it. And so, God willing, I'll try to get to every one. So, that's my approach. You're going to Strongsville here very shortly. I'd love to go, but just with cost wise and time wise, we talk about the money factor, right? Then you got time wise as well, right? And so you're fortunate you get to go. I'm a little jealous. I've heard a lot of good things about that Strongsville, Ohio vintage show. So I'd love to go and come by and pick me up. Then I'll ride. We'll
It's
split
right
the
on the way.
drive.
I love this comment because you and I were dealers back in the 90s. And it's talking about mall shows. Oh, God, do I miss the mall shows. We used to have
Yeah.
Owens Mills Mall, and I got the center bottom level right outside Macy's or J.C. Penney. We're right next to each other. And that was the golden spot, baby. And I sold my 89 Griffies, like candy. I miss the mall shows. And also Ziggy, yeah, no, we had a lot of VFW shows. The Lions Club Firehouse, just people in carts. And to that point, those shows still exist, or they're coming back. And that's kind of what I'm talking about is, are we starting to see more shows, on the smaller level? Or, very similar to me, being in the mid-Atlantic, you get CSA, you get Philly, and those are larger regional shows. So that's what I'm curious. I would like more mall shows or VFW shows to come back. And it'll be interesting. I think the larger regional shows are going to have a problem in 2023.
Yeah, we'll see. And speaking of mall shows, that you're bringing me back. We're talking about reminiscing, right? In the '90s here, late '90s here in the Syracuse area, when I was here, because I'm from New York City, but late '90s when I was here, we had like a mall show circuit. So we had Shoppingtown Mall, Great Northern Mall, Camillus Mall. I'm leaving up. We had about 4 or 5 malls. And each weekend the show was at a different mall. And so I would pay for like all the shows ahead of time, kind of have the same spot, even though the malls have a different layout. Here's the problem with that. Those malls I just mentioned, they're all they're all defunct. There are no stores and they are closed, and the grass is higher than the roof almost, because they're just sitting there, non-functional. It's sad. It's like, Walking Dead. It's a mall where the doors haven't been open in double-digit years, and like I said, the grass is high, and they could film like a movie where it's desolate there. And that's the sad thing is those malls. Not only is the shows gone, the shows are gone, and the malls are gone too.
Yeah, and here you go. Where I live, we have a mall show every month. It's only about 6 tables, and it's an outdoor mall, but it's awesome regardless. The 6 tables interesting. I'm curious if it's the same 6 tables every month, because I wonder if you do a table a month or if you spread that out, or if they rotate. That's a neat idea. I really want to put on, and maybe somebody near Baltimore can get on the bandwagon. I am planning, and it's going to happen. I want to do a charity card show. I think it's beyond time, and to the point of who's running the shows and who's making money off it. Let's get the money to charity. I'm a big supporter of the Babe Ruth Museum and the American Cancer Society. So let's do a card show. Let's do something we love and raise money for charity. So that's just my 2 cents. A flea market. Yes, flea markets are good.
Flea market.
Yeah.
That's a great comment. Flea markets are a great opportunity to pick up some deals. And I'll tell you, my experience at flea markets when it comes to sports cards, it's one spectrum or the other. They're either going to be way overpriced, right? Every Mickey Mantle card is going to be $18,000, yep. Including the Legend set from the 90s. Or you might find a deal, right? You might find a deal where they're not sure what the pricing. They sort of wing it, and you get maybe a deal on some cards. So it's one end of the spectrum. But flea markets are a great opportunity to pick up some stuff. And I found in my travels to flea markets, sometimes you will get skunked. Sometimes there's just no cards there, right? That's the chance you take. But you might get like the leg lamp from the Christmas Story, and so the day is saved.
And getting back, basically, we're all just hanging out at this outdoor mall show. And the comment was, it is the same 6 tables every time. So that sounds like an ongoing trade night. That's kind of cool. I think you guys have just a private club. You should get that catered, make it a luncheon. That sounds fun. Um,
Deli meat.
Always. The Twin Cities Sports Collectors Club has a monthly show. There you go. The club started 48 years ago and has over 300 members. Shows around 50 tables with a good mix of new and vintage. I love hearing. Now, I'm curious. Is monthly? Well, you're in Minnesota, but do you take off on the winter at all? I don't know. I wonder if that's like the Mid Atlantic, because, like I said, we don't see anything.
50 tables is a good size show. You know, it's average, I'd say. Syracuse is 110 tables. It's 250 for that mega show in December that I previously spoke about. That's why it's called the mega show. But, you know, 6 tables, I get it, depending on you got a smaller town or city. It is what it is. I get it. You know, Ryan Nolan talked about traveling. You know, he travels to all the shows.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled to a show not knowing, much info in advance, and he got there and there was 3 tables there. Can you imagine that?
No.
You travel, you get off the plane, you get in your hotel room, you get to the show venue, you walk in, and there's 3 6-foot tables.
Jenny, thank you for putting me in my place. Minnesota folks, don't take the winters off for anything, except for the NFL.
You're gonna have a picture of you on a lot of Minnesota folks dartboards with darts being that. I have a very good friend from Minnesota. They and I know other people from. Like Jenny said, that's not going to slow them down at all.
I just love the fact that they have this. Yeah, getting back to this is one of my favorite things I've seen. Is that it's just kind of an ongoing club that's been going for 48 years. If you have more stories like that, I love hearing stuff like that. Lots of shows in Florida, 50 to 80 tables typical. I love that size show. Weather a non-issue down here. Yes, rubbing it in. That's awesome. See, I would do that almost every weekend if I could. I got 3 kids and one of them would come with me, and I would do that every weekend. Collector's dream. Hello.
So, I mentioned the Syracuse show. We don't have another one to March, right? So, I had Lynn Lake, the promoter, on the show about a month ago, and that's actually going to be the next column in SCD. A couple of shameless plugs there. Sorry. But so I asked him, why don't you schedule more shows in the wintertime? And his answer was, I agreed with, but I didn't think about it until he said it, right? A good 60 to 70% of the dealers set up at the show come from other cities in New York and out of state. And so the weather here in the winter is not great for travel. And he said, listen, John, I could schedule a show in the winter, but I half the dealers that wouldn't travel, wouldn't make it, or just would wait till spring anyway. So it makes, that's sort of that factor. Like, can I get this show off the ground type of thing? Minnesota is obviously a bigger city, Minneapolis, a bigger city, more of a metropolis than Syracuse is. So that's probably an obvious factor there.
I like Double D flexing the Orlando. Please feel free to flex your weather. That is one of my jealousies. I video all the South Florida shows. Well, Collector's Dream, we will have to check that out. I do like seeing shows that I don't get to all the time. And man, if I had access to a show like that, I probably would never buy online again. I agree. If I had my choice, I want to see a card in person, and I'd like to negotiate in person. And that's one of the reasons that I wish we had more shows in my area. John, question directly for you. Does Vince Scully have an autographed first card? That might be a Victor question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have it. I can answer it in those terms. I know I've seen stuff online. I've seen cards signed by him. So I don't know if it comes out of a pack sign. It's a good thing to research. I don't think you want me to do it. It won't make great YouTube for me to do it here. But I've seen Vince Scully signed cards. So I don't know if they're company issued or they're just cards that he's been handed to him, and he signed, and we lost him this past year, and rest in peace, Vince Scully, legendary broadcaster. So.
I'll let you read this one if you can see it. I don't know if your eyes
Yeah,
at your age
yep.
can read it. Yep.
My wife always asks, my wife always asks me why I go to shows to find why I find most stuff on eBay. I tell her it's because I'll buy 2 cards, but might make 5 friends at each show. Great point from Sports MD card collector, right? What I mean. Well, I don't want to make the show about the National, right? But what are the and any show? I'm going to mention the National because it's
What's
the
up,
big
Tony?
one, right? You go to the National and it's right. You're there for the cards, right? But it's also a great place to catch up with folks you haven't seen in over about a year, right? Dinners and talking on the floor. Maybe doing content. Maybe if you're fortunate, you get on the main stage and do a show up there. That sort of thing. It's I've heard I call it the Super Bowl the hobby. I've heard other people call it a family reunion, right? It's where you get to see all your hobby friends and family that you haven't seen in a year. So you can't put a price on
some of our
attendance.
cousins.
Yeah, there you go. That epitomizes the family aspect of the hobby, right? It's a great, some of my best shows. I talk about this even as a dealer. Forget even like just walking through the door with the intent to buy, but even as a dealer, some of my best shows aren't just financially, right? It's just meeting people and having great conversations about players, debates. Oh, he's better, or I remember or stories, right? I remember seeing him in person play, or stories behind the cards, like I had this card, I sold it, I want to get it again, all that stuff, right? The stories and the ties and connections besides the cardboard and chrome, right? And we're all here, I like to think, because of the cardboard and chrome, but there's a lot of stuff besides those cards that tie us together, right? The stories and the camaraderie, and then making new memories at each show, right? Each show you attend, you're adding to that memory bank, and you can't put I don't care what anyone says, you can't put a price on that. Someone asked me once, being a content creator, why aren't you walking around the show floor, whether it be the National or any other one you might attend, John, and film and do like stuff like that? And number one, we got enough people who do a great job doing that, better than I could. But even if I've never thought about it, because I just enjoy conversating with people and looking at the showcases and buying some cards, right? I don't want to. I enjoy that experience, And I'll be honest with you, Ryan Nolan, one of the best at doing that. Ryan's part of Hobby Hotline. I watch some of his stuff, but I rather live that in real time than just watch it. But there's people who can't make certain shows, and Ryan does a great job filling that void.
And that was
folks.
And that was part of my point is different people have access to different shows. And for me, that was my point, is I lose access for a couple of months, and I was curious. And obviously, I should move to Orlando, and if I want to go to shows year round, or Minnesota, and I just, to me, to steal your line, the hobby is the people, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is.
Well, now I owe you $3, I think.
Well, I thought I had to pay a royalty, so I'm thrilled to hear that. But I think that is the truth. I mean, I'll go back to the National. I mean, I bought 1 or 2 things at the National, but I mean, other than the card that I was going to buy that you bought from under me, I don't remember much other than what I had to do business for clients, and for no specific reason. But I probably made friends that I talked to almost every day. And in fact, speaking of timing of friends from the National, we're going to bring in a part of the family here, Cousin Tony from Cousins Collectibles. What's going on?
What's up? What's up, Cousin Tony? From his car, it looks like.
Yes. I'm actually on the way to the game, and I figured I'd give you guys a call before
Well, it's
So
good.
you're going to the game tonight?
Yeah, that it's a rare appearance because I usually don't after kind of mid-October. I don't get anywhere near a football field because I'm a total wuss for the cold, but kind of had to make an exception for tonight. So
How tough? You don't have to mention like price or anything. How tough a ticket was it to get?
super tough. It actually so this kind of was one of those things where I know somebody who knows somebody. I have a buddy who owns a company, and these are some type of corporate deal. So the price was right enough for me to kind of just, all right, I'll use the money that I would have spent on a ticket to buy electric hat, gloves, socks, 38 layers.
Wait,
So
is
yeah,
there
So
any truth?
are you
Well,
tailgating outside?
yeah, we're tailgating outside, so it'll be it's gonna be for a long day, but I figure if I have enough of adult beverages, that'll kind of numb the pain a little bit. So
any
Yeah,
truth to the
always
rumor
works.
that you're playing left tackle?
you'll have to wait and see.
Okay, because
Listen, if I'm
How
playing,
Lane Johnson gave me the same answer.
listen, if I'm playing left tackle, take the Giants and just money line, straight money line. Like don't even. So,
what
but
real quick, and we'll talk about like what are you nervous? You feel good about the outcome
I
today?
feel good. I feel good about it. Just it's kind of weird because the last game the Eagles played the Giants, that was a total joke of a game. The Giants didn't even they had no interest in winning or playing, which they were locked in. So it's tough to gauge off of that. But it's just it all comes down to that stopping the Giants run. Keeping them from running 8-10 minute drives and keeping the Eagles offense. That's the blueprint to beat the Eagles. If you can keep them off the field, and so hopefully we can get them off the field quick, get them points, and then make Daniel Jones throw the ball. That's where I think we can kind of separate ourselves a little bit. So we'll see. Just look for me in the end zone. I'll be the guy with 38 layers on. I'll look like.
Well, you might be the only Eagle in the end zone, so it'll be easy to find.
Danny, yeah, just like you would
just
know
like
about
Tyler Huntley, just like Tyler Huntley.
I was
right?
about to say you would know about not getting in the end zone. You would know.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a suffering Ravens fan for the last week.
Sure.
So,
Listen,
so,
at least your team's made the playoffs.
Well, yeah, you guys are in the middle of transition. I mean, and geez, you've been spoiled for years, so it's nice to,
All right.
So, but no, I mean that's
Tony, I got to hit you with a hobby question since you jumped
Sure.
on. How many shows do you think you're going to go to, whether it's a mall show or a big show, or how many do you think you'll hit in 2023? Roughly?
It'll be roughly 5-ish or so. So the Philly show is here. It's I think it's 4 times a year now, or 3 at least.
3, yeah.
3. Yeah. So I'll definitely go there in March. Nationals on the docket. There's the Fishtown show, which is actually in the city of Philadelphia. The Philly show is not in Philadelphia. It's basically like an hour away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not even it. No, it's actually even further west now. It's in Oaks,
right.
which is another. Yeah. So it's not even. So that Fishtown show, that's actually coming up Pro Bowl Sunday, February 5th. It's at the Rivers Casino. Real nice show, actually. The parking's free and it's really laid out, really nice. Guy, promoter, does a real good job with that show. So, yeah, I'd say at least 5. Chantilly's on my list because it's not too far from me. And I'd like to go to a show in New York at some point. I mean, John's a little too far up there, but maybe.
You
maybe
mean New York City, the real New
maybe
York?
New York City, yeah. So that's one show where I like to get to just to see, because the only thing with staying in this area is you kind of start seeing the same stuff, and so it's very Philly heavy for the most part. And I collect that stuff, but I also like to look at other things that are out there that I normally wouldn't see at the local shows here. So.
Now, last year, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. You and I set up as dealers for the first time. Is that something you're going to continue to do this year?
Yeah, funny you asked that. We just come in. Here's the plug, Danny. We have our episode coming out this Monday. We talked about that with Danny, and I have to figure out how to have the hobby. I have to figure.
Yeah, that's coming for me.
That's that'll be later. Those sirens, if I call you guys later from the parking lot, that'll be. But no, yeah, I have to figure out how to have the hobby pay for the hobby. It's just I'm not sure about setting up at shows yet, but maybe I'm gonna have to start coming to grips with maybe moving some stuff that don't like as much in my collection to kind of fund other purchases instead of emptying out my piggy bank. So right now we don't have plans to set up, but who knows? That could, change in an instant. So
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of people that seem to be loving those small and mid-sized shows. In the comments today. So I think you're somebody who will hit any show where you can find something you might like.
Yeah.
There you go. And Philly Joe, the Fishtown show owes you a commission right there, Tony. You just got the word out to someone that didn't realize about it. So
yeah, that's a newer show. I think he's in his. It was in the other side of Philly, but it's now it's taken off. So yeah, check him out. So, but
there's
hey,
a free,
fellas,
free promotion.
I gotta run. So
have fun. Stay warm. I don't have I'm from New York. I'm not a Giants fan, so I don't have a rooting interest. Right. I'm just a good game. And hey, man, awesome that you get to go and enjoy the day.
Fly, Eagles, fly. See you
guys. Go Birds.
Well, thankfully he called in before pregame started. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm not crazy far from Buffalo. So I usually see them wind up in the Buffalo tailgate once or twice a year. And I know what the cold feels like. You got to dress warm. But like Tony said, a couple adult beverages sort of warm up the blood in your veins. And it's a great time. And, it's awesome he's going to get to go.
And I think we got a minute left. So let's bring in somebody I want to squeeze in real quick. Michael, Ziggy, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? How are you doing, man?
Good. You got him we got him right under the buzzer. I had to squeeze you in. What's going on?
I appreciate that. First of all, I owe you a call back. I got your voicemail. I haven't gotten back to you. But when you mentioned charity idea in Baltimore, I wanted to throw an idea out for you.
Sure.
Combination of charity casino night. Okay. You bring your slabs with you. You exchange your slabs based upon agreed upon value, like 90%, 80% of comps off eBay, whatever you agreed upon, for chips. You get chips at the casino. You go play casino games with chips. When you cash out, you use your chips to buy back cards that are in the galley. So it's a trade night with casino games. And you could have you have a sponsor put like a big card up. Maybe it's a card where you have to win a lot of chips. You have to win something to have a chase card that evening. But that way you can come in with cards you have. Now you have to monitor so you can't have people dumping slabs they don't want or stolen stuff. But, bring in your cards, get a value, get chips for them, and then use that.
Ziggy, I think you just volunteered yourself as for one of my committee positions.
I am interested. I am. That's why I mentioned it to you, because I'm local to your area. If you do a charity event, I would totally be in. If it's a for-profit event, I wouldn't be as interested. That's why I wanted to mention it.
But you know me. If it's for profit, I'm not a promoter. I want to do it for charity. So do me a favor, catch me off air. We'll talk about this because I'm serious.
Absolutely.
I gotta ask Ziggy, Are you going to the Eagles game too?
No, I'm not. I'm actually going to my son's games today. I do basketball down in Richmond, so I got games all day today. I think we went to the Hawks, one of my son's teams, and the other team I forget the name. So yeah, I got games all day today. I'll be watching on my phone, and listening to hobby content all day long when I can, guys.
As you should.
All right,
that sounds like a good day.
Thanks again, guys. Great show. Really enjoyed it. Again, we'll catch up later on, Danny. Great to talk to you guys, John.
Always.
And if everybody else is not paying attention, some great interviews, John. I love the interviews you've had lately, man. You had Nat on, you had the promoter on. You've had some phenomenal guys. I really recommend anybody check out Sports Card Nation. Phenomenal interviews, man. I'll stop there. Have a great day.
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
No check necessary, man. I love content where I learn stuff. The conversation you guys had with Dr. Beckett too was one of the best conversations about him explaining, like, here's something, if anybody's paying attention, Beckett is frustrated that he doesn't have that name. He has to go by Dr. James Beckett.
Yeah.
That is a huge deal. And we all admit, if Beckett did not have the name Beckett, that company would not even be in the top 10 in card grading companies today.
Yeah, it wouldn't be any better than Dandy John Ziggy grading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Michael, I appreciate you, the plugs and And to speak to the card match episode 2 with Dr. Bay, he said some things he's never said on his own
Yeah.
Content, and
Yeah.
I think it was easier for him to come on a different show to sort of go on his own platform and sort of say those things. And so we're really appreciative and grateful. One of my favorite, with no disrespect to anyone, one of my favorite interviews I've ever been a part of. So.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Hope more people listen. Worth, it's an evergreen piece. It'll probably get better with age.
Yep.
Guys, I'm gonna run.
Yep.
I got to go inside. Have a great day. Thank you again for the time, man.
Take care, buddy.
All right. Very cool. We gotta hire him to like. A great point with let's focus on kind of why he came on, right? Which was talk about a charity sort of event. That's a kind of a different angle, right? Where you trade. Mm-hmm. When he first started explaining how you bring slabs and you agree on it, I was gonna get all my Sean Casey graded rookies already until he said,
I'll admit I need a little bit more caffeine. Yeah. I couldn't figure out the math. That's why I need him in charge of the committee.
Well, it's a great, topic, and a lot of companies are doing charitable stuff, right? But you can never do enough charitable stuff, and you see how these things can go, right? To bring up DeMar Hamlin again, right? We all know what happened, right? He had a goal of $2,500 for his, Toys for Kids charity, Chasing M's. And then what happened. And I think the last I heard, they were over $10 million. Imagine having a goal of $2,500 and then you hit a $10 million. Talk about hobby, talk about goals, right?
I forgot to put up the banner.
Yeah. So just there's for all the bad, we hear the bad stories but there's just so many great ones too, and there's more great stories than bad ones, and the hobby's a great place, and and I'm happy to be a small part of it, and 2023 is gonna be hopefully a great year for everybody.
Well, I will say my personal hobby goals this year are to get to more smaller shows, probably travel a little bit less, and focus on my personal PC a little bit more. One of the things I've done, I think the last year or so, is I probably got a little bit more consumed in some of the business stuff I had to do. And, the business stuff that I do is fun. I love it. I'm blessed to do what I do. But I kind of started getting away from my personal collection. So I am actually working on the 57 top set. This is my official binder. I don't know if anybody else is a set collector, but I do use the trading card database to track that 57 set. Vintage card collector. I live in Minnesota. I've been to the monthly show many times. It's okay along the same vendors every time, which is probably expected. Yeah, that's something we were talking about before, is when you have the same show over and over, it definitely gets hard to find people to come in from out of the area and to pay and to travel if they're not sure exactly what their return is going to be. And that's one of the things about the regional shows, as one of the things about the national, is a lot of these dealers can count on, making a certain amount at the show. And it is hard to get dealers. And John was talking about that before. That's why you see a lot of the same dealers at shows is they do have to travel.
And we have a question. It's in the chat, which I like, from J Sut Card, who said, "Do you guys collect tickets?" I know you have tickets. It's something I'm starting to do. I'm always getting outbid at the last minute. I'm getting sniped on some of the tickets. I'm looking for some Brooklyn Dodgers during Jackie Robinson's playing days. I keep getting sniped on those, and so I'm going to have to probably open my wallet a little bit bigger. But I do have this ticket that I did buy. This is from your neck of the woods, Danny. You've seen this before.
Oh yeah, I need to get that off you at some point. You're nowhere in there.
That's a 1910 Fredericksburg,
Frederick, Maryland. Yep.
Yeah, Frederick, Maryland, from the Somerset League. Not the major leagues, but a lower level league. Mm-hmm. But one thing I love about this ticket this is 113 years old now, and it looks like I used it yesterday to get in a game. So it's in great shape. But tickets are an area I'm trying to get into. I'm just having bad luck winning these things. So I'm going to have to probably be a little more dedicated, a little, open the wallet a little bit more. I almost won some boxing tickets the other day. So my answer to that, Jason, is yes. I just don't have the substance to really back it up yet. You have some you have some more. I don't know if they're nearby or you just want to mention them, Danny.
Well, I put it in one of my favorite purchases of last year. And before we leave, I'll show this real quick. But this is the clinching game of the 1966 World Series. This was Sandy Koufax's last game as a major league player in uniform. He did not play in the game, but it was his last game in uniform as a major leaguer, and it was the clinching game for the Orioles' first World Series title. So this for me was a big PC purchase. That being said, that hour flew by, buddy.
Well, hang on. I want to respond to one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to respond to one comment, right? Because from Sports Card Influencer, can't talk today. Holy crap. Someone actually invited Ziggy on. Good to see people still believe in free speech. We have not banned anyone on this show. Anyone. Just like if you watch the intro, it says link in and come on. That is not false advertising. That is.
And if anybody ever watches, and if anybody ever watches the two of us, guys, just join in.
Yeah,
we don't have time for drama.
No one is blocked, but I mean, if you call in or link in and come on the screen and say Baba Booey, we will take you off screen. Just keep that in mind too.
Well, if you say Brian Gray, but Baba Booey might be okay. So on that, I just want to thank everybody. This was a great Saturday morning. We got football, a little family time, and always cards. So.
Want to mention Tuesday's show? Show.
Thank you.
Yep. That's going to be on the Hobby Hotline YouTube and channels. And great. Talking about Philly today, right? The Tuesday show is going to have a Philly flavor with Chris Harris and Tony and Oz. You just saw Tony on this show. Chris Harris, Tony and Oz from Cousins Collectible. They're all from that Philly area.
I was about to say, if the Eagles lose, we may have a different cast.
That might not be a good show. It'd be a very grumpy, they're all, I believe Chris Harris is an Eagles fan too. So that's going to be the all Philly, all Eagles version of Hobby Hotline. That'll be Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Hobby Hotline YouTube. And then we'll be back here next Saturday on Bench Clear for another version too. There you go, Baba Booey.
I think that's the way we go out. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much, and everybody have a great weekend.